There's this one photographer who had said this one line that you can drop us on any place on earth and we'll get the job done. That's all we have ever done. And that had become go-to thing for me. When I was trying to do anything, I was like, I aspire to be that. I aspire to be a person who can be dropped anywhere and they'll get the job done.
Would it be much more difficult now to get a photography gig?
I think it's actually better now in terms of how much you can access. If you are doing it the right way, if you are targeting the right things, I think it's in a better situation right now.
Also, I think you're more of a trendsetter than trendy.
If you say so.
Yeah, if your work is being put on by Nat Geo as a cover of the story, then it's probably a trendsetter, not something that's, following other people.
Understand what you are getting into. Don't rush it. Don't take any chance with it. Give yourself a good enough time to know about it, and only when you know what the real risks are and how you can manage them, then only get into it.
Welcome to Pop Snap Zap, where the only language that we understand is adventure, adrenaline, and extreme. I'm your host Sehan, and this is your mini co-host Zaza. Today, we don't have an athlete with us for a change, but someone who has worked with them and documented them for quite a few years. He has worked with Nat Geo, the Caravan Magazine, Sidetracked, Pi Network, and Adventure.com. Please welcome Mr. Sayandeep Roy.
Hello.
One of the best photographers, if I may say.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Zaza's a bit all over the place.
Yeah, better.
So, yeah. I guess like any artist or any photographer, like the first question I always would want to ask them is, how did you get into photography seriously? Like most people, I guess, I used to do photography too, and it was a hobby at first, but not many people are able to take it to the pro level. So how did you get into it, and how did you manage to turn it into a profession?
So for me, I think it started with the love for storytelling. I have always been interested in stories. I have always loved reading books, fiction, non-fiction, whichever. And that knack of loving stories kind of led me into the trying to understand more how I can tell more stories about the world, about things I'm passionate about. And that's how photography came into my life, I think. National Geographic itself was one of the biggest inspirations since childhood, because I would see these crazy shows in the Nat Geo channel or Discovery. And I also saw adventure through National Geographic for the first time. I think I saw rock climbing and all other kinds of adventure activities on the TV. And then I was like, okay, I want to do it someday. And that's how it started for me. That's how I started wanting to become the person who documents this kind of stories. And also I have somehow always been interested by visuals. I have always found it very interesting and intriguing to see and understand how you can convey something in one frame even, or in a series of frames. And photography, of course, then naturally was the thing that attracted me, and I started learning more about it, and that's how photography started for me. As for how I made it into a profession, that was a long process, because where I come from, Agartala, Tripura, photography is not very much in the culture of professions or career paths as such. And most of my peers had the goals of going into those popular medical, engineering or law fields. So both my parents are in the academic field. They have both been professors throughout their life. So yeah, it was also a little bit of a natural expectation that I'll go into that line. But then I was always interested in visuals and photography and filmmaking, these kind of things. So it was a little confusing for me at times to figure out how to do it, though I knew I wanted to do it. So for me, actually, naturally, it became a process of trying to look for a course, because again, that's what everyone suggested, that okay, if you want to do it, you at least have to do a course. And I also didn't know any better. I didn't know how else to figure anything out in terms of learning photography or filmmaking. And adventure photography, though I was interested in it even then, but that was even far away because I didn't really know anyone in India who was specifically doing that. And so I could not ask or talk to anyone to get any suggestion from. So then I remember that one of my friends who knew that I wanted to do this sent me an ad for Symbiosis School of Photography, Pune, that like they are providing degree in photography. And that was the only thing I could find where I could see that, okay, this is a course and this is a valid course that I can go to get the degree and get out of it. At least I'll have a start. So then since I had no other option or I didn't know anything else about it, I just enrolled in it. But interestingly, after about 1 year of being in the course, I felt like I need to drop out of it. And that became a funny thing because, first of all, being from Agartala again, it was a little bit of a hassle to convince everyone that this is what I want to do, because everyone's first question is then, how will you earn then? Like, what is the work after this?
I don't think that's a Agartala. That's like a India.
Okay, yeah, possibly. But I feel that it's a little bit too much in Agartala because it's a very small place, and a lot of exposure is just not there. Even now, now it has been like years that I have been doing this professionally or not, but even now people don't really get what, say, climbing photography is or what even climbing is, which is something I do a lot. So that was the first step anyway to get into that college, that okay, I need to convince why photography and how it makes sense. And then I became the person who was like, I want to do photography, but now I want to drop out of a photography college. So
that must have been like really difficult to so you got into photography college with your parents' permission.
Yeah, good thing was that my parents have always been supportive about me being into photography, but they were just worried that how will you do anything with it? Like, we are all okay about you doing this, but then at least you need to do something sustainable in life, which is valid. And so that's how the college thing came up. And then I was like, college is not working out. So
why was it not working out?
So the thing is that I had a very clear idea of what I wanted to do with photography, and it involved a lot of photojournalism, documentary photography, traveling, and adventure, of course. And the college provided the course in a way that focused a lot on things like fashion photography, product photography, architecture, or like indoor things, or to put it in a line, things that make you more money, which makes sense again, because any college would want their students to get out and like make a living out of it, and that's why many people come into a college, right? But then I realized that this is not what I am looking for, and the college was also expensive. So I felt like I'm not really getting to learn what I wanted, but the money is getting spent there. So I thought that okay, dropping out is the best way, because so then I realized that, okay, this money, like whatever was remaining for the college, that amount, even if I spend that amount in some other parts without a formal course, that will probably teach me a lot more. Like, I started digging into the lives of people who do what I want to do, like in India or not, but I just started looking into say I love the work of this photographer, then how did he or she get there and what was the process? So then I realized that college is not really needed for it, and I'm not against college education as such. Just you are okay. Yeah. No, just making it very clear, because it can sound like I'm against it, but I also have some problems with formal education as such. I think one has to decide for themselves whether it works for them or not. All I want to say is it's not the only way. You can do a lot of things without it also. And I just felt that that should be my way. But then it was actually, I think that was the more difficult part for me to convince, because parents are professors. So they have been into academia and they very much value the degree and that process of doing things. And then it was like, you got into a photography college, which is something you have always spoken about and always wanted to do. Now why do you want to drop out of that? And that's very confusing for others, I can understand. But thankfully, my parents always listened to me when I had to say anything, and they were always very open to listening to why exactly I wanted to do something. So I explained to them that these are the pointers, I'm not getting to learn what I wanted to learn. This college will not give me the knowledge that I need for the career I want in life. And it's expensive in a way that's not making sense sense. So it's just better that I follow this other method of actually talking to people. So my method was that I figured out that, okay, I want to work with this person, and I'll just reach out to them and talk to them, and rest I'll just like learn from YouTube and head out on my own to create my own projects with support from parents only, because I was like, I am anyway taking support from parents for the college. So I'll take that support, but do something else instead of the college and the degree. And that really worked out very well for me. Though it took some time, because after college, I was also a little lost, about how exactly to go about it. But then slowly I figured that, okay, these are the people I actually need to keep in touch with. These are the people I need to learn from. These are the kind of projects I should focus more on, and how it should go. So yeah, that's how the starting of learning photography was for me. Like photography and how to make it commercial was for me.
Not a lot of people can say ki, I used to love Nat Geo and now I've done work with Nat Geo. That's, I love Nat Geo. I have you've seen my Nat Geo collection. Was one of my dreams too, maybe I'll work for Nat Geo. I even did my degree in like physical geography bachelor's. Like, I'm going to go work for Nat Geo. Then whole career took a different direction. But that's what happens. You plan to do something else, you did something else.
Yeah, that happens to you.
You're also a climber. I've seen you climb a couple of times. Yeah, Delhi maybe boulder box. So like, does being involved in the sport change or influences how you photograph the sport or how you document the sport?
I think it helps for sure. But the thing is that I have always, as far as adventure photography goes, adventure photography and climbing started around the same time for me. So I have never really documented climbing, at least, without knowing a little bit about climbing, because I started climbing before I started photographing or filming climbing. And I think that helped, because I can see situations where knowing how climbing works helps, because I know I can anticipate better. I sometimes understand at least a little bit of what the athlete is going through. So that helps a lot in planning or understanding a moment that is coming up, or just to know the physical difficulties involved in the sport. I can be ready for a lot of emotions, which probably would not have been possible if I was not so involved in the sport. So yeah, definitely makes a difference, I feel. But as I haven't photographed it without being a climber, I don't know how it will be for someone who has not climbed at all and tried to photograph it. I
was at Suru and I tried photographing some climbing. That was when I had zero climbing experience, never climbed. Okay. And I can tell now that I've climbed for like at least 8-9 times since then. That I do have like a better understanding of, like you said, anticipation.
Exactly.
Oh, you can see what's about to happen. Yeah. A person's going to swing, a person's going to hang, rest. Probably a long way to go before I understand more, but
it's a fun process though, I feel. Yeah.
So would you say, like, if you had to do a different action sport, would you be able to do it with relative ease, or do you think you would have to research the sport quite a bit before you get into it?
So I personally believe that I can actually land up anywhere and document something well, because I just, like, that's how I have tried to train myself whenever I have tried to so-called train myself, because again, it's a National Geographic influence, I feel, because I had seen a video long back, like at least 8 to 9 years back, when I was just like figuring out how to do anything about anything. And there's this one photographer who had said this one line that you can drop us on any place on earth and we'll get the job done. That's all we have ever done. And that had become a like go-to thing for me when I was trying to do anything. I was like, I aspire to be that. I aspire to be a person who can be dropped anywhere and they'll get the job done. So yeah, I think for me, now I have reached a point where I don't really need to know anything beforehand to do a decent job. But if I have the time, I'll of course do some research about it, because it always helps to know a little more. Like, say there's an XYZ sport that I need to document tomorrow. I'm confident that I can do it. But if I know it's like 2 days later, then I'll spend the 2 days in looking into it a little bit, because always, like, some extra information always helps. So I do believe that if you have the option, do some research that will add something to it.
So we're going to go a little off, not topic, but off direction, because I was thinking of something. So one is social media has probably definitely changed the game for photography. I remember when I only used to post pictures, and then so Instagram specifically, TikTok was banned in India. Instagram specifically started promoting video content and this and that. And for me, then there was no reason to post on Instagram. I was still taking pictures for myself, but there was no reason to post on Instagram per se. And then also at the same time, Nat Geo's print magazine shut down.
Not exactly. I mean,
Not shut down, but there was like this whole downscaling, and they were shifting to more of an online format.
Yeah, I actually I was also sad about that. So they basically, what do you call it? They are not in stands anymore. They like, you can just subscribe and get the magazine, but they'll not be available in stands anymore. So yeah, it's sad. It shows how print is going down eventually. So yeah.
So you're already been in the scene, but if you had to start, let's say you just came out of college or whatever, and you had to start again, would it be much more difficult now to get a photography gig?
I don't think so, because I think some things have changed in how the publicity goes about photo or video or whatever it is. But social media or internet in general has also made everything so accessible, which has very good and bad parts both. But in this context, if I look at the good parts, you can actually reach out to anyone and show your work to anyone if you want to. Of course, it comes down to your skills and knowledge and practice, whether you're good at it and how well you can do it. But I think it's actually better now in terms of how much you can access, if you are doing it the right way, if you are targeting the right things. I think it's in a better situation right now.
But do you feel like your work opportunities have been reduced with a lot of because a lot of companies that are more money oriented, let's say, they want their brand to be promoted, so they're probably shifting to video format content or Instagram style content, 30-second reels. And you'll see less and less pictures, or you'll see less and less. So has it like affected how much work opportunity you're getting, or like?
I personally didn't feel that it has affected work opportunity, but I did feel that I had to tweak things a little, because I can't ever go against a global market demand, and my very original style might not match with a global market demand. And as I was primarily a photographer, because video came into my life much later, like I have always been interested in it, but I actually started doing it much later in life. So yeah, if I frankly say, I would probably love to just think about photos and maybe upload photos and sustain with that. But that's evidently not possible anymore. Like, let's just talk about the ratio thing, how Instagram changes ratio once in a while, and everything almost has become vertical these days, right? So I did find myself thinking about the ratio when I'm taking some photos at times, because I knew that it will end up in Instagram at the end. And that's a valid consideration to make also, I feel like, because like that's how the world is functioning. But at the same time, I don't think you have to, anyone doesn't have to give up on their original style also. You can do that to the extent that's needed, like cater to the algorithm, if I may put it that way. To the extent that's needed, you can still do your own stuff. I mean, I once in a while upload things that are absolutely not algorithm friendly, because I don't really care about the big following and that part. But at the same time, I also make sure that I have enough algorithm friendly things also, so that I'm not lost out there and my visibility is there somewhere. So I think it's about finding the balance.
Always about balance.
Yeah.
But when
which is hard to find.
Yeah, when balance changes, then you have to, it's about how you adapt to the change of balance.
Yeah.
I think that's essentially where being part of the new generation always helps. Because rather than adapting, you're just growing into the new balance.
I mean, I would love if I was a more of real person, but I'm just not.
Yeah.
So yeah, just thinking about reels doesn't work for me, and I won't forcefully become that person. But once in a while, if I think that I can portray something in a nice reel format that syncs with my mindset also, why not? I think that is the kind of balance I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, of course it helps if you're naturally a kind of person, who is doing things that are very much in sync with what is trending, then of course your work will reach more, and that's just the reality.
So do you follow trends?
Not really. I mean, as I said, I wish I was more of that kind of a person, just for the sake of the work part, just for the sake of the fact that if I was more trendy as such, my work might have reached more people. It might have given me more opportunities. I don't know. But at the same time, I personally like to stick to certain things also. Like, as I said, it's a choice and a balance thing. And I am okay with how I am choosing it right now and how much I'm getting to do what I like. And whenever I do things that are not inherently me, I mean, it's a little sad, but sometimes I have to do it. So that's why I also make sure it's not too much. So I don't mind not being trendy, because I think if I try to be trendy, that will be a lot of things against my own ethics and ideologies. So, and I don't want to do that.
Also, I think you're more of a trendsetter than trendy.
If you say so.
Yeah, if your work is being put on by Nat Geo as a cover of the story, then it's probably a trendsetter, not something that's, following other people. Because that's what I've noticed with Nat Geo also, or other big magazines, is they're not really selling their soul.
Yeah.
While business is going down the drain a little bit, but they're not selling their soul. But let's move on to something else. Like besides the part of getting work for photography, or how you started, like there's a huge risk in adventure photography. Yeah, there's a huge risk in any adventure sport.
Activity.
For a lot of people, adventure is, taking up things off the bucket list, doing it once, and maybe some things that are dangerous, like skydiving, pops in a while. But like when you come into the realm of living the adventure life, there's like people just climbing throughout the year, ice climbing, and not just once as a bucket list thing, they're doing it seriously. And then you hear all these avalanches, all of this stuff happening. So let's like get into the dangers of being in the mountains. And, or not just being in the mountains. Mountains are...
Yeah, one part of it, yeah.
It's romantic also, but it's also dangerous, I guess, depending on how you treat it.
Yeah.
And climbing, people can, sometimes slip, sometimes gear fails. And you as a climber would know that pretty well. Have you had any falls?
Yeah, I mean, I had one bad fall in my life, thankfully, no more than that. But that was bad. And funnily, it happened in Boulder Box, like indoors. Boulder Box is one of the space I'm most familiar with. And my worst injury has happened there. So that's how it goes, I guess. Like, you just never know. But I think, the first thing to keep in mind about risk is that never rush anything when it comes to any kind of adventure. I would request anyone to please take the time to understand the detail of what you're going to do, the extent of risk you're taking, and know that,
Say that into the camera. Yeah. Please. Yeah. Address them directly.
Okay. So
they need to know this.
Yeah. About adventure, I would like to say to anyone that, before you get into any kind of adventure activity or sports, please, research a lot about it. Understand what you are getting into. Don't rush it. Don't take any chance with it. Give yourself a good enough time to know about it, and only when you know what the real risks are and how you can manage them, then only get into it, because the cost can be your life, and sometimes it can feel like, okay, we'll manage and whatever, but when the real risks appear, it doesn't feel nice and you don't want to be there. So be very prepared and don't ignore the preparation, is what I would like to say. Because as I said, Boulder Box, one of my most comfortable spaces to climb at. I have started climbing there, which is why I think I had started getting a little careless there, because I was like, it's so much of a known space. What can go wrong there? I'm way more careful when I'm standing on a cliff edge, for example. If I have to take a photo of a highline, maybe there have been points that I am literally on a cliff edge, and if I slip even one step, I don't know how far I'll fall. So in those moments, I'm actually very careful, because I know there is no chance there. There is no margin of error. So I cannot make any mistake. But I think, like any other thing, adventure is also probably one of the things you get used to. Like, say if you're afraid of something today, if I give the example of driving a car, I think the first day you take a car out on your own, it's a little scary, but 2 months later, you're not scared anymore if you're regular at it. So adventure is also like that, but that's not good for adventure, I would say. Please take again, to audiences, please take every day of adventure activity as the first day of your adventure activity, because every day you should be equally careful. And I think I was not that in Boulder Box on that one day. I remember it was a dino move where I had to totally jump and hold on to a certain hold. And again, in my mind I was like, okay, I'll just fall. Nothing too bad can happen. What happened was I held the hold and then slipped. So in climbing, there are ways of falling, and you generally get used to the ways of falling. But when you miss a hold and then fall, you can't really control the fall much. So I basically fell in a bad way, and my own knee hit my chin, and it was a like bad cut immediately. I was dripping blood, and like first I didn't even realize that I was dripping blood. I was just like lying down, holding my chin like that for like 30 seconds. And then I just sat up, and it was like a fountain of blood right here. So Then I had to, of course, go to the hospital, get stitches and all. And that was my bad experience about adventure. And I do,
to clarify in general, when you said like, no, the only risk was I would fall, and I'm used to falling.
Yeah.
Most people don't know. They're probably thinking you're falling from height, who don't climb. In an indoor setting, normally you have mats down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how. So
that's why you felt probably more comfortable.
Because in a climbing gym, everything is padded, and you will mostly fall on the pads. And once you get comfortable with falling on the pads, that feels pretty okay. And I was there at that point of time. And of course, I have fallen, like climbing is like 90% falling. So you keep falling all the time. So that's what, And I, like looking back, I think I could have been more careful about that specific move, or maybe have thought about it a little more before going for the move, because these things happen when you are pushing your limits a little. But you also have to do that to learn more. So again, that's a very difficult decision to make at times, that how much do I push, how much do I not push. But all I mean to say is I became a little careless that day, and I shouldn't have been. So that should never happen. However long you have done it, you should be equally careful every day, is what I feel.
Yeah, fair enough. I was like, it's such a difficult thing to explain to like...
there's no
population in India in general. Like, what do? I climb. I climb for happiness.
That like a lot of people will be.
What are the risks? I can fall down from 30 feet high.
Exactly. I mean, the feet is up to you, but you can. And like the thing with climbing specifically, I can't speak for other sports because I'm not experienced there. But in climbing, you can injure anywhere. Like I have seen people falling from, 3 feet height and breaking something, or popping a knee out or something like that, because it's about the impact and the positioning. You can like do something very small in terms of the movement and then still mess your body up in some way. So I mean, generally just be careful all the time as much as you can. And that applies to everything adventurous, I feel.
I mean, there are other risks also besides the falling part. Like we went for a photo shoot for like some of the climber athletes.
Yeah.
And there was a whole different aspect, the wildlife aspect.
Exactly. That's another thing.
Like, would you want to?
Yeah, definitely. So what happened was we were about to document 2 climbers, and they were just looking for some starting holds of a boulder problem. And one of them just saw a big blackish surface and assumed it's a rock face. Only after he went very close, he realized that it's a huge beehive. So, and by that time, there was not too much time to do anything about it. So we all had to just run for our lives. Not our lives maybe, but we didn't.
I would say we did have to run for our lives.
I mean, we didn't want to get bitten by a huge swarm of bees.
Yeah. Those, and it was like, if they didn't hold the beehive, so nothing happened. But one of the climbers screamed like, "Bah!"
Yeah, I think that disturbed them.
Yeah, and the whole beehive woke up, and we just ran for the next 30 minutes in circles around, back and forth. I dropped my glasses and my camera in one place.
Yeah, I remember we had all our gears placed, we had just placed things, and then we had to leave everything and run, and then come back, 15-20 minutes later to retrieve them, because we just didn't want to risk getting attacked by bees again. And it was in Dodge, one of the very accessible climbing areas from Delhi. And there have been stories of people getting attacked by bees at the Hajj. So, of course, it was scary. And yeah, these things, wildlife generally is another aspect one should be careful about when they go to any place. Sometimes it can be bears, sometimes it can be leopards. You just never know. You should be aware that what can come up and act accordingly.
Yeah, during the same shoot, one of our climbers encountered a cobra.
Yeah, exactly.
She just dropped the scooter and ran away.
Yeah. It's like, some things can't even be anticipated, right? Like you might research very well, but still miss out on something. And yeah.
I think it's also fair to mention, like, when a situation hits, normally when people are looking at videos of like a dangerous situation, they can easily come up with logic like, no, you should have done this, you should have done this. But in that situation, it's really hard to think, especially when there's panic and fear and everything set in. So when like one of the climber who faced the cobra, it would have made more sense to stay on the scooty and turn around.
Yeah, exactly.
He just dropped the scooty and ran for his life.
You saying this reminds me of something. Sathan is one of my most favorite places to climb at and just be at. But there are also a lot of bears in and around Sathan. I haven't seen one, but a lot of my climber friends have. So I was just looking up one day how to run away from a bear, or what do you do if you find a bear right in front of you? And apparently you have to just like jump around, shout, make yourself loud and make yourself look big. So that's the only way to actually fight a bear. You can't really fight a bear. If it touches you, you're done. But I thought that that's so anti-intuitive. If I see a bear in front of me, the instinct would be to just turn around and run. But like, probably you'll never survive like that, because when you turn around and run, they probably see you as a prey, and they are of course way stronger than you. So,
and probably faster than you.
Yeah, of course. And like also about the fast thing also, like some things are just not tangible before you see something. But I remember that once, again, somewhere close to Sathan, I was hiking and there was a dog, which I was not sure if it's friendly or not. And sometimes mountain dogs can be unfriendly. I mean, usually I'm very okay with dogs and I love dogs, but I have also seen dogs that, could have torn people apart. So I am a little cautious at times. And the dog was very far away. I mean, it was almost like a dot. I could just figure out that it's a dog. And I was just hoping that it's not a, like, attacking dog. And I just tried to walk a little fast to, like, reach a space where I'm safe. And then I saw it from there. It started running. It reached me in, like, 2-3 minutes. And I'm like, first, it could have attacked me if it wanted to. And then if a dog can do that, how fast will a bear be? I have, like, no human being has any chance. So yeah, these are just realities that you choose to take up, I think, when you are in adventure. But yeah, again, it should be a conscious choice. And I hope no one ever ends up in these situations without knowing that these can happen.
And don't travel alone into like...
Yeah.
I mean, traveling alone is one thing. Traveling alone into the wild is
another thing. I mean, let people, like, if you're going alone, let people know where you're going. Never just wander off to some random place. These are very important things.
Yeah. Our moms don't have to worry about us taking drugs.
Yeah.
They do have to worry about our hospital bills and stuff.
Definitely.
And it's completely like, you can't anticipate the risks. So every time you'll just be like, how did this happen? Like just something else.
But again, with everything, there is some level of precautions you can take. Like wildlife also, like usually I think wildlife won't come to you and do something bad to you. They only when they are scared, they attack you or something. So if you're aware, I think like at least 90% of the dangers can be avoided. If you're not being egoistic or adamant about going against the nature of things, it's fine.
Or accidentally walk up to a bear and his kids.
Yeah.
Then they're protected.
Yeah. Even then, like, I know someone who had met is not the right word, I guess, but who found a bear with the kids, like, and the bear was like 2 meters apart. And he just stood there, didn't do anything, and just stayed silent. The bear kind of looked at him for some time and then walked off. So I think it comes down to that, like, anyone wandering off into the wild, if I may put it that way, should just be respectful about the environment, to the wildlife, to the nature there, and not act like they're above the environment. I think that's a good way to go about outdoors in general. Just be respectful to your environment and a lot of things will be fine then. Of course, again, there are chances like an earthquake can come somewhere and like you can just go under the rubble in seconds, or you can slip and fall into a river. Those things can happen. But again, it comes down to a level of consciousness and being mindful about how you behave.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
Yeah.
In the end of it all, it's how well you manage yourself.
Yeah.
And not too much ego, like you put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get a bit technical. How do you like pack for adventure photography?
It's a good question actually, because it's usually a hassle because if it's a mountain adventure specifically, you have to navigate in difficult terrains at times. So carrying too much is an issue at times. But at the same time, you have to carry some things that you just can't avoid for getting the shoot done. So I think I just try to know as much as I can about the area and check the terrain a bit, how much of hiking I'll have to do, or is it a plain ground, or do I have can the space be accessed by a car or not, or do I have to walk? So I decide my packing depending on that. Like if I have to walk a lot, then I'll probably take the bare necessities and just that, and make sure that I'm not carrying too much. But say if I know that a car can reach there, or I'm going through a vehicle, so then I might just carry a little extra gear, because just for chances, like if something breaks, if extra batteries and stuff like that. Again, it comes down to where it's happening and what the project is about. I would just say it's ideal not to overpack. Just know your gear so well that you realize how much is needed for what kind of shoot, and then decide depending on the area and the environment.
And I know climbers, not just climbers, but like ski mountaineers, anyone, weight is very important thing in most mountain sports. So as a climber, you anyways have to be very lightweight. But when you're going for photography, you carry your camera, which does add extra weight. So when you decide to go for photography, are you like, I'm not going to be climbing?
Another fun question again. So yeah, emotionally, I try to do that, but practically I often fail to do that because I love both. Like, it has happened so many times that I am climbing something and then I see some light somewhere and I'm like, oh, I need to take a photo right now. And then I just run and take the photo. Or I am documenting a climber and I get very intrigued by the route they are trying, and I'm like, I do want to give it an attempt and see how it goes. And I have done that too. But I have actually stopped doing that. I don't think I have done that in last 1 year or so, because as much as I want to do it, it's not really efficient for getting the work done. So now I decide in a way that I'll just focus on the work for a certain period of time. And then if I feel too interested in a climb, for example, then I'll just do it after the shoot is over or after I'm done with my work. The other way around is easier actually. I mean, it really happens that I'm climbing and I see something so unique that I have to take the photo right now. If it happens, so I'll still do it. Like if I think I'm seeing a moment that will not appear again, then I'll just still leave the climb and run for the photo. But yeah, that part is easier to do because it's not often that it happens that you're climbing and you see something so unique. But the other way around is like difficult to manage, because like a lot of times I'm documenting climbing, and usually you move from climb to climb when you're documenting. At least a few climbs happen in one shoot. So it's very easy to get like interested in those climbs and want to try. But yeah, I just try to not do that anymore. I haven't done that in quite some time, and I hope I can manage that way, because it's just not efficient for the work to get done. And I think when I'm photographing something, I'm doing a job for someone, if not for someone, for myself. And I should, like, it's just more productive when I'm just focusing on one thing at one time and then moving on to the next.
So this like sort of overlaps into the next idea, which is when you're out on a shoot, do you plan it or do you like embrace spontaneity? Like, do you prefer spontaneous moments, or do you like, I'm just going to stick to the idea I have?
I like spontaneity. Generally, I love how things can come up in a way that I haven't even thought of. And that's beautiful because, yeah, I think planning is a little boring actually. Though you have to do that for certain things, but nothing beats the fun of spontaneity. And a lot of my favorite photos have come up without any plans. So I do love that. But I'll say it will depend on the project, because sometimes project and the purpose also. For example, if I am documenting someone projecting a route or trying to open a route or something like that, I'll not have any say there. I'll just be a spectator and document that as originally possible. I'll not have any say in what they're doing, because I don't think that's ethical. I don't think it's okay for me to influence their actions in any way when it's a natural event unfolding. But if I'm doing something for a brand, then there are some specific requirements that need to get done in a certain period of time. We might have just 2 hours to get like 5 photos and that's it. So at that point, it's not about documenting a story that's naturally happening. It's probably the photos will just go for a poster or something like that. Then I plan, because it's a job again, and I'm taking the responsibility of doing it for someone who has trusted me with this job. So the priority there is to get that done in that time as well as possible. For those things, you have to plan and you have to make things look a certain way. But yeah, I think it comes down to the purpose then, that what are you doing it for? If it's something that's naturally happening, someone is doing it for their own cause and I'm just there to document, I'll not plan anything, I'll not say anything. I'll just check with them if they are okay. First thing is, I'll check with them if they are okay with me being there in the first place, because some people just might want to climb and not have anyone around except for their spotters and belayers or people like that. And if they are okay with me being around, I'll just document it without disturbing them at all, as much as possible. And that's not the case for a commercial shoot. In a commercial shoot, it's more time bound. It's more about getting a number of photos or videos in a specific amount of time. Then of course I'll plan it that way. So yeah, the purpose decides it.
So a commercial shoot, you get annoyed sometimes, like you want to do something else, like climb, or maybe there's a moment which you see somewhere else happening, but you have to focus.
Yeah, that happens a lot. First thing is that there is no end to seeing more interesting things. And I think people in visual arts will relate, at least people in photography and filmmaking will relate, that you always just keep seeing things that are interesting. But again, yeah, I mean, when you are doing a commercial shoot, it's a responsibility and someone has trusted you with something. So I think one should be responsible there and not sway away from that, because of course it's easy to get distracted. But at that point, it's my responsibility to not get distracted and get the work done. And yeah, I take it that way and I do the job, even if I want to do something else at that point of time. Like, even if we talk about the Zabar one shoot that we did 2 days back, I very much wanted to try this 7V boulder problem that Sachin was trying. But then I knew that if I had spent time there, because like trying means not giving one attempt, trying means like giving at least half an hour to 40 minutes there, trying a few times, taking rest in between. And technically I could have done that day. I had my shoes with me, but then I just knew that if I would do that at that point of time, we would probably lose the important light at a certain point of time. So I did not. So because the job that day was to get those photos done. So that's how I decide things.
Fair enough. And out of all these projects you've done, or your own personal projects or like commercial ones, have you had like something that it really sticks with you in your memory, or like something that's your favorite?
Yeah, I'll talk about 2 projects of 2 very different zones. One definitely was the National Geographic assignment that I did last year. Because it's a National Geographic assignment. That's something that has been a dream for years. So getting to actually do that was amazing. And also the fact that I got to do it in the way I wanted to do it. Like, there was full creative freedom and I was actually being able to document it as I see things, which is a great creative liberty to have, because often you don't get that. So definitely that's one thing. And I was documenting adventures. So it was like a lot of things that I love at the same time in a way that I'm loving. So like barely anything beats that. And another was, it was nothing to do with adventure. I'm also very much interested in social, cultural aspects of life. And there's this story I had done for the Caravan magazine. It was during the second lockdown during COVID. And I had read a small newspaper article saying that residents of Malana village in Himachal Pradesh are resisting the vaccination, citing their deity's diktat. Like they have a deity, Jamlu Devta, if I'm not wrong. They locally call the deity Jamlu Devta, and according to them, Jamlu Devta had told them not to take the vaccine, which is why the local medical team was finding it difficult to convince them to actually take the vaccine. And I was like, I have never heard something like this. It's such an interesting intersection of science and culture and religion and everything coming together to try make something happen. And also another interesting fact was that Malana's culture is really interesting. That like they don't really touch outsiders, like physical touch, like, and only if they know you for a long time or only if you have become their friends over a course of time, then only they start getting closer to you. And there are like temples inside the village where it's like there are big boards written that if you touch this, you will be fined this much these kind of things. So because of this culture of not mingling much with outsiders, they anyway did not have any COVID cases, and a test was done. 0 COVID cases came up, which strengthened their idea that is their devta that's protecting them. So it became even harder for the medical team to actually convince them ki it's not because of devta, it's because of the fact that you don't mingle with outsiders. And like, this is something that was too interesting to me to not document. I was like, I don't know if I'll ever hear something like this. I have to do it. And it was peak lockdown and I didn't know anyone in Malana as such. So I was like, I don't know how to figure out. I just tried looking for who is the head of the medical department in that area. And then I figured out that Malana comes under the, the SHO of Kulu is probably the person dealing with all this. So I found her phone number, called her up and said that I just read this news. I want to know more about it. And if you are actually being able to, vaccinate them to whatever extent, I would love to just join you to document it. And thankfully the whole team was very welcome and they gave me all the information. And by the time I had found all this out and called them, actually 1 day of vaccination was done. And the thing is that still a lot of people were not convinced that they should take the vaccine. But their Gram Pradhan had taken the vaccine. So a number of people also got comfortable with the idea of taking the vaccine. And then they gave me the dates, which was within a week. So I got my tickets from Agartala to Kulu and then just, and that was peak lockdown. So I had to get COVID tested and figure out how the travel will go. And I just landed up in Kulu and just stayed there for 2-3 days because the exact date of the second vaccination date was also not sure. So I just landed up there, met them, and I was like, whenever you go, just take me. And then I ended up in Malana on the second day of the vaccination for this village where the team actually managed to convince some people to take the vaccine. And still there are many who were like, we won't do it because Devta. And me, I'm a very non-religious person, but it was very interesting experience to see this unfold in front of my eyes. I felt it's such an interesting intersection point of science and religion. And yeah, it was just nice to document that.
It's, in stats, I think you call it the Z variable, right? Where, when something happens, you attribute it to the wrong variable. Okay. So in this case, people were not getting COVID because nobody got COVID into the village, and they were attributing it to, they were believing that it was their deity. So rather than the deity not causing it, rather than them not vaccinating, it was because the disease didn't have a chance to come. Okay. It would have been funny though if one of the doctors carried it in.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, so many things can happen here, and I just don't know how it will unfold. So yeah, it was just interesting to me to just be there. I think this is one story where even documentation came later. I was just intrigued to experience this and see something like this happen right in front of my eyes. So, yeah.
It would be funny if you went in with COVID.
Yeah. So that's why, again, and that's where I think this is a good point, because this is where ethics or responsibility factors also come in while being a photographer or filmmaker or an outsider in general, because in that village, I'm an outsider. So I would not have pushed it if they were not okay with me being there. And that's why I made sure that I am COVID tested just before going, and I'm like as careful as possible to not carry it there, because I should not be that person. And I think these are also very important factors to keep in mind while working with people that you are not connected with or people you don't know. I think you should respect their way of life when you are working with people who have a way of life that is not similar to yours, because I think I or any outsider should not have any say in whatever someone else's lifestyle is. And if you are showing a part of anyone else's lifestyle, it should be in a way that they are comfortable with.
Yeah, I also believe like one of the reasons COVID spread quite a bit was because the symptoms show up a few days later after
and
you
sometimes
get sick.
they were not even showing. So.
Yeah, so you would be carrying it without realizing you're healthy. Yeah. And then you just fly over from one country to another with no symptoms, and then before you know it, diseases reach somewhere else. So yeah, the ethics does matter. You got to be really careful in a situation like this. Before you know it, you delete the entire village.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, that would be so, I mean, yeah. And similar thing about the climbing part I mentioned, where I said that I first check with an athlete whether they are okay with me being in their environment when they are on their own project, because I don't want to be a disturbance in any way for the sake of documenting it. And I think like anyone in visual media should be careful of the people they are working with. It should be a collaboration, and yeah, the person who is going in and telling a story should be always respectful about the people whose story they are telling. And better, if possible, let them tell the story. I mean, that's the best thing to do if you can do. Often it's not possible for multiple different reasons, which I'll not just dive into now. But yeah, I think working with someone is best in the way when you can just let them tell their story, and how you make it possible is up to you. And I think it's a responsibility as visual storytellers to try to do that as much as possible.
I think it's a good piece of advice and note to end the podcast on. Yeah. Remember, ethics. Important part of photography. I faced that a lot also. Like when I used to do street photography and stuff, always the question was, you can photograph someone. And then I would always have, every time this discussion would come up, there would always be two sides to the argument, where someone would say, just photograph it, just go for it, and it doesn't matter if you post it somewhere else. Like, otherwise you're going to miss the moment, capture it. And then the other one would be, always make sure you have permission. And if they tell you to delete it, delete it.
Yeah.
So there's always this constant push and pull between.
Yeah. I follow this second one. Like, I'll always try to make sure that whoever I'm photographing is at least first thing, they should know that I'm doing it. And that becomes very evident in street situations. Like, people who you are photographing will see, of course, that you are there and doing it. And I'll also make sure that they are okay with it. Because their life is their life. I have no say on it, about it. I should document it only if they allow me to do that. And I had read something in a magazine only, I guess, which resonated with me very well in this context, that when you are working with people whom you don't know or whose lifestyle you don't connect to again, just treat them as a family or a close friend. Like, how do you document a family member you love or a friend you love?
I just go up to their face with a camera. You get no say in this.
Ideally not, but yeah, you get what I mean. And that's how you should like deal with anyone, because only then you can empathize with them. And if you genuinely see someone as someone you love, then only you know how to behave in a way that they are not offended. So.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
And we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, see you again next week.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. Where is Azad?
Bye.
Bye. Okay.